Welcome. Happy Thursday to Advanced Roofing's Property Management Top 10 Things You Need to Know. This is informal, going through some slides on items that just general knowledge that you need to know in the roofing industry. There will be a Q&A chat on the side. So if you have any questions, raise your hands or put a note in there. Somebody will be happy to answer it. Introducing myself, I'm Michael Clarence, been in the roofing business since I was probably about 12, going up and roost with my dad on the weekends. And then in 16, I started pressure cleaning and went full on into roofing while going to college at night. So been in the business a long time, also been in the solar business since 2008. So familiar with all different types of roofing systems, integrations, things of that nature. So I'm happy to be your host today and talk through some things to look out for. It'll keep you out of trouble or get your thoughts rolling. A little plug, we got the hurricane season preparedness webinar coming up May 8th. Scan the register. There'll be emails coming out on that as well if you'd like to get some information on getting your properties prepared for their next hurricane season coming up. Hopefully it's not a busy one. Everybody thinks roofers want them. I personally don't. That's part of half the gray hairs I have in my head is from hurricanes. So we were looking forward to a calm season and normal course of business. A little bit about Advanced Roofing. My father started it in 1983, one pickup truck, and we are here today. We have Advanced Air Systems along with Advanced Green Technologies, our sister companies, all under one roof, all one EIN, Workers' Comp General Liability. So what that means is we can do a Class A chiller down to the roofing, and then if you want to bolt on some solar, we can do that as well. We saw a very big need in the business to be vertically integrated and to be able to handle everything from HVAC, lightning protection, repairs, things of that nature. So we're one service provider under one roof. A little bit about us. Like I said, we started in 83. A lot of awards winning, a lot of community service, very big in the MS Bike Ride, Boys and Girls Club, Habitat for Humanity is a big one, doing a bunch of charity roofs for them right now. We're very committed to safety. We take it seriously, safety and then quality. Safety EMR is 0.83, which is 17% better than our peers, which is very good in the roofing industry. We have all our in-house cranes, about 22 cranes now, 40 Lowells, things of that nature, 4 sheet metal shops throughout the state. So a lot of equipment, a lot of resources, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. Top contractor, 750 employees that are W-2, which you don't see a lot today in the roofing industry. A lot of people subcontract everything out for various reasons. A high bonding rate, which means we're financially stable, and a good insurance policy for when there is a big issue out there to have backing behind us. A little bit about our locations. We're throughout the state. Brick and mortar, we actually own every office that we're in, so it's just not we're renting a little spot. We're proud to say that we finally finalized our last acquisition of a property in Fort Myers this year. So last year, I should say. But we've got everything from production offices or Fort Lauderdale, obviously, Orlando and Tampa, and then we saw a need in the marketplace to be able to service our clients on a more expedited basis. So we started up service offices in Miami, Jupiter, Jacksonville, and Fort Myers. Today on the road, we have between all the divisions, over 100 service trucks on the road daily that are all dispatched out. And right now we're running around 50 production crews out in the field. So substantial amount of workforce out there to service our clients. The little plug, giving away some goodies at the end. Put your name in the chat and Tatiana will be happy to handle that for you. All right. Why we're here today, little learning objectives. We broke it down into 10 things. Roofing maintenance, we'll dive into different types of systems, roof traffic, waterproofing, different weather conditions, things to think about what could be causing your issues out there, warranties, drainage, the surrounding area, metal types, and the perimeter, vapor barrier. These are kind of my 10 top highlights to have a general conversation around. to give you a high level education of roofing systems, things to look for, can educate you a little bit to have a better conversation with us, a roofing contractor, or any other roofing contractor or trade contractor you're working with. Now I'll hand it over to Clint. Clint's been with us for going on 20 years. He's a partner in the business, and he'll be happy to jump into our first topic.
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, everybody. Yep, like Mike said, I've been with Advance for 20 years now and have ran various parts of the business from estimating and project management to our solar company, which is one of my primary focuses now. So look forward to talking to you guys a little bit about maintenance and some of the decisions that we make when we're budgeting for replacements and everything else. So let's go ahead and get started. Time for a quick poll. We're going to test the memory right now. Which one of the learning objectives do you think is the most important one? And I'm guessing that based on your current situation, we might get a varying list of answers here. So roof maintenance, that's good. I'm going to talk a little bit about maintenance and budgeting. So, and we're going to hit on all of these. I will say this, they're all very important. They all kind of work together, and we'll talk about how the life cycle of a roof evolves, but all of these things are very important when you're planning for a project or maintaining a roof that you already have. So diving right into roof maintenance and to understand kind of the condition of your roof, we always start off by asking some key questions, things that you maybe want to know about your roof before you go down the journey of budgeting for repairs or maintenance or even a replacement. But what are those questions that we're looking for? What is your service history? How much have you been spending, annually, and where are those locations of the leaks at? Do you have a maintenance history documented, and is it available to you to prove that you've been in compliance with your warranty terms, and so you can understand what you're spending? What's the investment horizon and the ownership needs? We know that everybody's needs are a little bit different. Some people are just trying to, get through a 5-year window, and they may be looking to expand into a new location or selling the property. You may have a long-term hold with critical operations underneath it, and you need to know that, your building is going to perform no matter what over a long period of time, and you have a longer investment window. What's the current condition of the roof? And is that condition affecting the business operations? Again, everybody's use case is a little bit different. And then what kind of roof type, what system do you have out there? Jason's going to talk a lot about different systems in a little bit. Some of the questions that I consider like ancillary non-key factors that a lot of people think are very important is maybe how old is that roof, and do I have a warranty? And I think sometimes we all get a little false sense of security about what that warranty can do for you or how new or old that roof is. We see new roofs fail from poor craftsmanship and poor installation, or maybe the wrong materials being chosen well early on in their life cycle. And we see roofs that are 30 years old still performing and working, right? So those key questions over on the left are things that really factor into what we're doing in our plan. Some of the things that maybe, are a small factor, but not as important as you might think, the age and the warranty themselves. Once we ask ourselves these questions, we can really determine where your roof's at in the life cycle, and we can come up with a plan, right? Can we just do general preventative maintenance, make sure our drains are clean, our caulking is looked at, and come up with a maintenance plan, low cost and easy to keep that roof in a maintainable state? Can think of it like going and getting a physical or changing your oil in your car. Or hey, maybe I've avoided my roof for a period of time, and it's not trashed, but it's going to have some significant repairs done. And so we'll come up with a repair budget to try to get it back into that, first phase of being maintainable. And sometimes, we've just aged out, or it's gotten so bad that we can't really maintain it. Could we rehabilitate it? What does that mean? Can we put a second layer of membrane on? Can we put a coating on, and bring that, system back up through a significant rehabilitation? And then at some point in time, all roofs will just need to be replaced. And that's that re-roof that we need to budget for, significant capital expense, and a lot of important decisions to be made about what you're going to do with your roof at that point in time. All right, so now that we've kind of talked about that, this visual on the right kind of gives us that whole life cycle that we talk about. And I'm going to get into the cost of ownership and how that life cycle plays out over a period of time. But we all start with a new building, we get our first roof. Once that roof is installed, we hope that the architect or your consultant or your contractor has given you the right materials for your use case, and they've put the work in with the proper craftsmanship, and then it moves into a maintenance mode. And that maintenance mode, annually we're looking at it, we're bringing it up to its maintainable state, making sure that things don't go south and we don't see it. And then restoration and replacement. So that's the life cycle. What are the key inputs when we're kind of understanding what the cost of that life cycle is? Obviously, the initial cost is a big input, right? We make this investment, $10 a square foot, $15 a square foot, $20 a square foot. And we need to understand, what that is. And every roof system is a little bit different. And then what is the life expectancy of that roof? And again, that's not the warranty term. We can give you a warranty for 20 years, and that's a good insurance policy. But if it's installed improperly, or it's not the right material for the application, or you don't take care of it, the warranty is actually out the door. And so you got to really understand that. Then maintenance cost. What does it cost us annually to maintain that roof in that phase two that you're looking at in the visual? Are there any potential energy savings? And then, once we get into that roof replacement, what's the cost going to be to actually tear that system off and put it back? And, what does that mean over a long period of time? Do we factor inflation in, et cetera? Some key things to look at, the do you knows. These are really interesting facts. They come out of a lot of different studies published by anywhere from the Department of Defense, the United States government, to large facility management companies, property management companies. But 80% of roofs fail prematurely due to lack of maintenance, poor craftsmanship upon installation. That's an extraordinary number. A lot like your car, if you don't change the oil after 50,000 miles, your engine's going to blow up and nobody's going to help you with it. A roof's really no different. If we allow penetrations to leak and flood water into the roof system, there's very little that anyone can do to bring that back into a maintainable state. And you're most likely looking at a tear off by code would require it, not to mention just the performance as well. When we talk about proactive maintenance plans versus reactive maintenance plans in a little bit, but unplanned repairs, those reactive maintenance plans and expenses are 3 to 5 times the cost of planned maintenance. So we come out and do maintenance on a planned schedule. We fit it in when it's not an emergency. We do it in the low seasons. 20% of the cost of having someone come out on an emergency and fix a problem that's right in your face right now. Proactively maintained roofs can give you an average of 21 years compared to 13 years for reactive maintained roofs. So by going out there and doing those health checks early, catching problems early, you extend the life and ultimately drive that cost of ownership down over that 20-year period dramatically. And then, one thing we all very well know, and, as you look at this, roof replacement's often the most expensive thing that you'll do as an owner. Right up there with concrete restoration, significant build outs. Our roofs are extremely expensive assets and do have to be replaced over time. All right, so budgeting for maintenance and the expense of not doing it, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Reactive maintenance is a pretty simple concept, right? You have a leak and you call us out to fix it. You're reacting to a problem versus a proactive process, which Jason's probably going to talk about in a little bit, like a ramp program where we're putting your roof asset and we're managing it proactively and taking a look at things before they become problems and fixing them. Referencing that Department of Defense study, the United States Air Force did this study on 600 million square feet of their roofs all around the country and world. And those reactive repairs cost on average $15,000 for your typical 100,000 square foot building versus proactive repairs, $4,000. That's a dramatic difference, 30% or 70% less. NDL warranties do not cover maintenance. So you get that safety net of feeling like you have a warranty. It's important to know that a no dollar limit does not cover the maintenance. If you actually read the fine print, you're still responsible for maintenance to make sure that warranty is intact. And if that roof was to ever fail, you tried to claim that warranty with your manufacturers, they're going to look for your maintenance records. And if you have that well documented, you have a much stronger case to get that roof handled under your warranty. So maintenance is required, and that's in every manufacturer's language. Excellent. And the big and the and is the cost of not budgeting for maintenance. And what does that mean? So in the slides here, the two vertical stacks and the two horizontal stacks, we're taking a look at comparing two projects. They both started off at the exact same place. They're your typical 25,000 square foot roof, and they've been installed with the identical TPO roof systems at $10 a square foot. The only difference is one of these roofs we maintain proactively, and we're going to get that full life cycle. We're going to get that full 25 years out of that roof. The other one is being reactively maintained, and we're only going to get 15 years out of that roof. And so, what does that look like financially, and what is the real cost of not doing your maintenance, right? So, we make this initial investment, $250,000, and we buy that initial roof. That's that light colored orange on the vertical stacks on the bottom left. And then we go out and we start maintaining it, right? And every year for the next, for that 20 years, we're doing our 4 cents per square foot of reactive maintenance on the left, and we're doing our 15 cents per square foot of proactive maintenance on the left stack, and reactive maintenance on the right stack, meaning we're just out there responding to emergencies when they pop up. And then we look at it layered over time. And what does that mean when we look at having to replace that roof for a second time in year 15, instead of having to be able to hold on to that asset for another 10 years before replacing it, factoring in the cost of inflation, that next roof now costs you dramatically more. So over 20 years, 25 years, you could be looking at spending $714,000 on that same roof that with maintenance could have cost you only $275,000. And that's really the amplified effect of not maintaining a roof is you now are faced with replacing that roof in mid-life cycle, essentially buying two roofs in the same time period that you would have had to have bought one. And that is really the major effect. And when you look at times, this is only factoring 3% inflation. And we know the majority of us here probably worked through the inflationary period of COVID and the recent years. 3% inflation is a conservative factor. So you make that initial investment, and if we were to layer in 5% inflation, this spread gets even larger. And so, taking care of your roof, even though it's often out of sight, it can't really be out of mind. This needs to be something that we plan for. And then what lies beyond the initial investment? So this is now taking those same two roofs, and we're going to assume that everybody has now learned based on the previous slide that they need to maintain their roof, proactively, right? So these two roofs are just simply choosing different systems in the beginning onset of the asset. So in one system, we are buying a 20-year TPO roof, and we're going to maintain it to last 20 years. Or we could buy a high-performance PVC roof system with a 30-year expectation. And what does that mean? So these 25,000 square foot roofs, the 20-year roof is a $10 square foot roof, same as it was in the previous example. But we're going to spend 10% more and buy a 30-year PVC roof, high-performance PVC roof, and extend out that initial lifespan, right? So what does that look like? In both scenarios, we're going to layer in the same 4 cents per square foot of proactive roof maintenance over the 20 and the 30-year life. We're going to layer in the replacement cost at year 20, the full, expectation with 3% inflation. And then we'll take a look at what that looks like. And what we see is, to get the 30-year roof out of the TPO, because you had to replace it at year 20, so another 10 years after that, on average is going to cost you $23,000 a year to own that throughout the life cycle. That's inclusive of that replacement in year 20, all the maintenance to take care of it. Buying that 30-year roof and taking care of it drives your annual cost of average ownership all the way down to $10,000 a year. So under 50% of the cost by just spending 10% more initially. Now, if you're not going to maintain it, I probably wouldn't spend that 10% because it's still going to potentially fail earlier, right? But with a maintenance program and some intelligent choices on your roof systems, you can really see the effect that the choices are made with the performance of the roof system that you choose initially and how you choose to maintain it over a period of time can really compound in both directions, either reduce your operating cost or increase them over time. So the message here, choose the system that fits your use case and make sure you take care of it, because that essentially drives your operating cost down significantly. I'm going to toss it over to Jason Carruth. Jason's been with us almost right around the same time as I have. I think it's longer than 16 years at this point. This might be a little dated slide, but Jason comes from a long line of roofers as well, like a lot of us. He also came up through the ranks running one of our service branches in Fort Lauderdale, our largest service branch, before transferring up to our Orlando office and running our Orlando office, both the service branch and the production branch. So he's a member of our executive committee and a wealth of knowledge. So Jason, it's all yours.
Thanks, Clint. So we're only to number 2, though. We got the top 10 things. What I want to talk to you about is I'm going to talk to you about the roof coatings. Very attractive option in the roofing industry that property managers get basically proposals for. They got roofing contractors that come to them and say, we could coat this roof. There's all types of people out there that are offering, up to, I've seen 50-year warranties on roof coatings that they're promising people. But I'm going to give you the down low on exactly what to look for, what kind of roof coatings there are. I'm going to talk to you about the different types of roof systems for re-roofing, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what Clint mentioned, the roof asset management plans, the RAMP programs, and how to organize all your files and make sure that you're keeping documentation on all your properties. So the first thing is roof coatings, right? We call them silicone coatings, elastomeric coatings. There's 4 here on the screen. They all perform in a different way. Acrylic coatings, silicones, polyurethanes, and PMMAs. These are all applicable for every different type of roof system. It depends on what the application method is. Acrylic roof systems are primarily for a high reflectivity. They are waterproofing. They are best used on roofs that have positive slope. Metal roofs that have 212 pitch, 112 pitch, up to 312 pitch. Silicone's probably the most popular in the industry, just due to the fact that the product is a little bit more durable. It expands and contracts, and it has a ponding water resistance, like the polyurethanes, but it's down to a low cost point now, where we've seen during the COVID times, when materials were short really on everything, silicone prices have particularly dropped. Polyurethanes best performing under ponding water, and then PMMAs, those are basically a 2-part a product that can be put together over occupied spaces when you have no roof substrate, like a concrete balcony above your head, where you're trying to waterproof occupied spaces below. So silicone coatings are, like I said, probably the most popular in the industry right now, and that's what a lot of contractors are leaning towards. So a couple things before I get to this. I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about the application methods and the due diligence. You're going to have somebody come to you and say, we can save you on your electricity bills. We're going to save you on your energy efficiency. There's no tear off when you have a coating. All of those things are all true. However, the roof system that's existing has got to be applicable to accept the coating. So what the contractor needs to look for, or what we look for, is you're looking for the moisture content in the existing roof system. Basically, what we're trying to do is we need to make sure that the existing roof, all the insulation, everything in the existing substrate is dry, so we can install a coating, whether it's an acrylic, a silicone, a polyurethane, over the existing roof. The other thing that we're looking for is an adhesion. We need to do some tests as far as making sure that the product that we're going to be applying sticks to the existing substrate. Whether it's a metal roof, do I need a primer? Is there rusted areas? What's the application that's needed, and what's the adhesion? Does it stick to whatever system that is existing? So 2 things to look out for. Those are primarily the two that you need to do your homework on prior to accepting a coating application. How much moisture is in the roof and whether or not the product sticks. And there's testing application standards for both of those that are industry standards on how to go about it. And we can help you, justify. We just saved a customer in Jacksonville. They got a coating proposal. We provided a coating proposal. We did a moisture scan on the building prior to doing this, and 80% of the roof was saturated insulation. And there's nothing really at that point that we can do to provide them with a coating. The coating is going to fail miserably quickly. So the difference between acrylics and silicones, go back a slide real quick. Sorry, I haven't touched base on that. The difference between acrylics and silicones, acrylics, like I said, are utilized for high reflectivity. They're a great product, a low cost point when the roof has positive drainage. When you have water that flows to the internal drains or off the edge of the roof with a gutter, basically acrylic is a key candidate for that. It'll be the least expensive as far as applicable. Silicones, these two we're picking are basically the push points for the industry. Like I said, silicones, they perform better under ponding water. They're more resistance. They have what's called a higher tensile strength. In Florida, you got an expansion and contraction tremendously on buildings, especially in the summertime. Expansion in the summertime at 2 o'clock, the roof systems are expanding. They're all, and then you get a rainstorm at 3 o'clock. The roof temperature can go from 150 degrees down to 75 degrees in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes in a rain. And that's the tensile strength of the material, basically being able to move. The buildings do that as well. And I'm not saying a whole lot. I'm just saying enough to make a difference in how the performance of the product is over a long period of time. So silicones have a very high tensile strength that is acceptable to the expansion and contraction of the buildings. Some of the benefits, right? We talked about the cost points. You're going to save on a high reflectivity. You're saving on your energy bills. There are some rebate programs still available in the state. I believe one of them is with Jacksonville Utility Authority. The other one is with Orlando Utility Authority in regards to getting some rebates for applying a cool roof system over air-conditioned space. I think both of those programs are up to a certain amount, and anywhere between 10 to 15 cents a square foot. We can kind of give you some guidance on that if you have a building that's being powered by JEA or OUC, either one of those. Both of these systems offer minimal invasiveness. Basically, we're not tearing the old roof off. We're not exposing the elements of the inside of the building. There's no dust, debris that falls into the building. These are clean installs. There are up to 20-year warranties that are available on certain products. Typically, the way that a coating is kind of like a tire, if you will, that you buy from the tire shop. The more wear and tear goes on it, the more life cycle you're going to get out of how many miles you're going to get. Same thing with the coating. The more coating that you put down onto the roof system, the more life cycle you're going to get out of it. So the more product that we put down, the more warranty you're going to get. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, you can get up to 4 gallons per 100 square feet. Typically, that's going to get you anywhere over 20 years of a warranty. Energy costs, basically, that's taking a roof system that it could be a modified roof system where the temperature is about 140 to 130 degrees. We're coating it with the white reflectivity. We're bringing that temperature down at the hot point of the day to about 85 to 90 degrees. Basically, what we're doing is cooling off the building, cooling up the induction rate of how your building is absorbing heat. It's a great benefit, as well as a waterproofing benefit, right? As well. Coatings are tax deductible, and we can kind of guide you as well on some information in that as well. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is 2 different types of roof systems that are very popular in the commercial roofing industry is modified bitumen roof systems compared to a single ply roof system. When do I need to install a modified system compared to a single ply? How does my building going to perform better? So, typically the way that we look at this is a modified roof system is a multi-ply asphaltic layer membrane system. So you have typically you have a base sheet. You might have some insulation in both of these systems, but you have a base sheet, and then you have an inner ply system, and then a modified cap sheet, which is basically like a shingle on your house, but it comes in rolls. Modified systems can be applied in typically 3 different ways. They could be cold applied with adhesive, they could be torch applied with a hot air welder, or they could be put down with hot asphalt, which gets mopped down. Those systems are pretty much a thing of the past. Most systems now are either going to be cold applied or torch applied modified systems. Where are these good? These are good roof systems when there's a lot of foot traffic on the building, when you have, multiple condos that have, 50, 80, 100 AC units on the roof. When there's AC contractors that are servicing units, these modified roof systems perform better over a long period of time with a lot of foot traffic. Single ply roof systems, very popular in the industry. When we first started here, they mentioned that 20 years ago that single plies were, the beginning of the market. We were still putting down a lot of modifieds. About 80 to 90% of what we do nowadays is single ply roof systems, due to the fact that the cost effectiveness. Basically, the product is exactly what it says: single ply, 1 ply of membrane, comes in different thicknesses. You can get 36 mils from some manufacturers, 45, 60 mils, and 80 mils. Up to 115 mils thick on a fleece back sheet. That is the durability is basically the 1 ply of membrane is what you're relying on. So how do we protect that when you have foot traffic? We install a lot of walk pads around AC units. Where are these applicable? These are applicable on retail centers. A lot of the property managers are seeing these going down on the retail centers where there's very minimal foot traffic, a lot of square footage. To waterproof, and it becomes cost effective because the membrane is easier to install than multiplies of modified. So both of these also can be coated, right? You got an existing modified roof system. If it applies, you can put a coating on it. If you got an existing single ply system, it can be coated as well. Typically, the life cycle of these are 20-year warranties that are provided from the industry. Sometimes I'm seeing up to 30-year warranties on some of these manufacturers now that are offering for single plies and modifieds. No dollar limit. NDLs do require the maintenance program that we talked about earlier. Talking about roof asset management plans. This is the biggest thing that you should be responsible for as a property manager. How do I maintain my portfolio for what's happening on my roofs? How do I know where my roof systems are? How do I budget for re-roofs? How do I budget for repairs? There are software programs out there that are utilized by us, by other contractors, that are basically keeping all the information in a database that is, internet friendly, cloud-based friendly for the property manager and the owner to be utilizing to see exactly what's going on. So typically we go out and we do an inspection. We're basically doing an inventory of the entire building. We walk the roof. We identify all the penetrations, what kind of drainage it has, what kind of walls it has, what the walls are made of, what the substrate is made of. And when we identify the inventory of what kind of roof system, we're also identifying the deficiencies. What deficiencies are, what needs to be repaired. There's a cost associated with each individual repair, and we identify those on emergency level. That water is entering the building now, and we also identify it in a remedial response, which basically is something that needs to be addressed here in the near future. When we do those inspections, we've basically taken an inventory. We've shared this information with owners, and these are all free inspections that we offer. We've given this to the property manager that can now take this information and relay it to the owner and say, hey, listen, here's the inspection report that was identified, and we put some budgets around it. The budgets can be for a roof coating, it can be for repairs and maintenance, or we could say that we budgeted this for a re-roof. And we also give you a grading scale on the life cycle of the roof, elementary scale A through F, and A being the roof system has 8 to 10 years of life expectancy or over, and F is basically less than 2 years. We're looking to get this roof replaced. You need to be budgeting for this a replacement cost in the next 2 years. We also store in these softwares the service history repair, right? So you call us up, you call up a contractor, you're going out, you're requesting a leak service, you get before and after pictures, and we're documenting every time we go to the facility or to the unit or to the building. And what we're doing is we're calculating how much money we're spending year over year, and giving you an idea of how much to budget for. So if you're a current customer of ours and you're looking to put a budget together for 2025 on how much you're going to spend during the rainy season, and we've serviced your buildings in the past, we can tell you exactly how much we've spent in 2024 on roofing repairs and maintenance. Now, the idea is hopefully we don't have to repair those again. Your roofing repair costs will come down because we've already been out there. However, we can give you some ideas of what to set aside for the rainy season coming up here. So, and then Clint talked about warranties. Warranties are basically stored in this platform as well. We can identify whether or not a repair that is made out in the field is warranted by the manufacturer, or whether or not it's an owner-driven cost. Owner-driven costs are typically done by damage to the roof system. If there's a failure in the roof system due to the manufacturer's open seams, open laps, failure in the material, then we lean on the manufacturer to pay for the cost of the repair at that point. So documenting is from a property management standpoint would be the number one thing that I would do to provide the most value information to the owner of what we're doing. So we offer free roof inspections. Free roof inspections are cloud-based, where you can log in with a login and password, share that information. They're also printable. They can export to Excel programs that you can use for budgeting it on your own devices. But this would be the number one thing that I would recommend as far as what to do as a property manager for your owners, is get them on a roof asset management plan. I think that's it for me. The next one's, oh no, this is mine too. Site inspection reports. This goes back to what I just talked about, basically identifying the everything that's in the report. Looking at the inventory, talking about the repairs and maintenance, the emergency, the remedial. We give you the current life expectancy, like I said, on the elementary score of A through F, and we make recommendations in regards to what needs to be repaired on an emergency level and what needs to be repaired on a remedial level. It's all self-explanatory. It's a great report. If you haven't seen one, we can share. Just request one in the chat. We can share a sample report with you. This slide goes back to Mike.
Good morning, or almost afternoon now. We're in the back 7. These slides are a little bit faster. So roof traffic. Jason was talking to us about different types of roof systems. A lot of the damage I see after newly installed systems, or we get a phone call, we have a leak, you just put the roof on 6 months ago, a year ago, is from roof traffic. A lot of the issues are usually our HVAC contractors going up there to replace a compressor unit on a HVAC system, or flushing out a chiller system. I can tell you a lot of stories, if we had a lot more time, of different things I've seen over the time. So roof traffic is very big. There's different ways to handle it. I can tell you from a contractor standpoint, if you have 20, 30, 80 small 3-ton units up on stands on the roof, you're going to need some good walk pads, and we can talk about that in a little later, or a 3-ply system, modified system, up there, so you have more rigidity to it. TPOs are great roofs. I always say, if you don't have a lot going on up there, no traffic on the roof, they do work, as long as they're not by salt water, they're inland. There's other options like PVC roofs as well, fiber tight, PVC key. We do, like, for example, at the Fort Lauderdale Airport, we're about to do a bunch more fiber tight roof systems out there, because they withstand the jet fuel. contaminants that are dispersed by the planes. So punctures are the biggest one. A lot of walking on the roof will damage the insulation as well and make bird baths, ponding water up on the roof, which over time, the heat cycles of the water up on the roof, the algae will degrade your membrane system. TPOs do a lot better under ponding water than modifieds. So we can talk through that. Safety, the next slide is just safety is a big thing. So OSHA's been out in the recent last couple months in full force, doing a lot of inspections. I think their quotas have been raised due to some political environments going on. We have not had any citations. That's the good news because we take safety first. But I've heard a lot of stories out in the industry. So with that said, we'll talk a little later on about different safety equipment and handrails. But two things: you can do yellow safety warning lines around the perimeter, which meets OSHA guidelines for fall protection of people working on the roof. If you do have an HVAC system within 15 feet of an edge of a roof, you need a guardrail, and also the walk pads. We like to do the different walk pads from different manufacturers come in. Different colors, yellow, gray, custom colors. They can get expensive if you start getting custom colors, but a designated area for your HVAC contractor to walk on the roof. It adds a triple layer of protection per se on the millage thickness of what compared to what your roofing system is. So if they drop that compressor or they drop a screwdriver, it'll have that additional protection on the roof. It's a very good system to do. Even the coating systems have really good. We'll put say 3 or 4 more coats of the yellow walk pad, which just gives you that extra durability and protection up on a roof. Waterproofing, windows. I see a lot of issues from glazing issues over time, up curtain walls up against a roof, things of that nature that they need to be maintained. The glazing the glass will last 100 years, but the silicone caulking that is used around the glazing does not last. And obviously the same thing for skylights and atriums. See a lot of that more on malls, commercial facilities, where the water will start sagging and sitting up against those caulking joints and degrading over time, allowing water to infiltrate and into the building or into your roof system. So that's, one of the things that people don't always think about. They see the roof might have a leak, but the water is actually coming from somewhere else. Or you install a new roof and you don't fix the glazing issues or your wall issues, and the water migrates into your roof, and now you got a wet roof, which will compound over time. It might not be leaking into the building, but it will degrade the performance and longevity of the roof system. I can't tell you how many times we have been brought in lately to do a re-roof job before the concrete restoration. I tell you that's not the best idea. A lot of times what happens is a concrete restoration guys will be walking all over the roof, traffic, things of that nature. They're not following walk pads, crushing insulation, setting up hoists, things of that nature. I would highly advise, if you have the opportunity, to do the concrete restoration first and then the re-roof project. But a lot of times it's insurance driven, because insurance companies are now requiring replacements on roofs that are, I've heard 15, 20, and I'll tell you, we have a slide on insurance a little bit later, but that's negotiable. I'll tell you to push back on your agent and the carriers. I've seen some leniency in the recent history of the industry. Weather conditions. Jason alluded to this. So believe it or not, a lot of the old, if you have metal buildings on your facility, Butler buildings, I call them, whoever the manufacturer was, freestanding buildings, those buildings, if you have a 100-foot panel and you have a hot summer day in August, September, and it's 130 degrees, if you put a thermometer on that roof, a laser gun, and then you get a thunderstorm coming through with 60-degree cool droplets, you've got a temperature swing of 60, 80 degrees. Those metal roofs will shrink up to 2 to 4 inches if you have a 100-foot span. So theoretically, the whole metal building should shrink at the same time. But the issue is that when it's such a rapid change, thicker steel doesn't contract as fast as your light gauge steel. It'll contract faster, and it basically tears it itself apart, which is fine. And the building's new and it's tight and everything's working. But on a 20, 30, 40-year-old metal building, those systems will start to fail. There's ways to go around that. We're doing a lot of actual, if you have a metal building, we're doing a lot of what we call flute fill retrofits over those metal buildings with TPO, PVC key, and putting filler board in there. And that system, the expansion and contraction on the membrane roof will not pop as the metal will. And it'll give you a good encapsulation for your metal building, things of that nature. The other thing is the windblown issues after hurricanes. I can tell you my career, I've been through over 10 hurricanes. This last set of storms we had last year, I saw more microburst damage than I've ever seen. So you might have not have gotten a leak during the storm because it was a very dry storm this last year, but we go up to do inspections on roofs, some of the ramp inspections Jason was talking about, and we find all the coping cap was lifted up in one section and set back down, or it ran across the roof in a microburst situation. And what that is an isolated cell that came through, and they're sometimes only 10, 15 feet wide. I saw some up in the Plant City, and I live up in Stewart. We actually had one over my house, tore off part of my roof. It was more like 50-foot wide. So they're not full on tornadoes, but they can cause some damage, and to be aware of, lift up sections of roofs. And you need to go do full on inspections after a storm, because what will happen is if it's a dry storm and high wind, you'll have damage and not even know about it. And the next time we get a good rain, you're going to have a substantial amount of leaks. Number 6, talk a little bit about different types of warranties. I see a lot about this. We install mainly all NDL warranties. What it is a no dollar limit. The manufacturer will come out there and make sure that your roofing system, if it's an integral part of the roof system, is watertight. There's no dollar limit to it. They'll pay for the material, labor to ensure that you have a leak-free roof system. As mentioned earlier, there is a maintenance involved in this. If you read every warranty, that's either twice a year or once a year, they require a documented maintenance to be done in order for the warranty to be full effect. If you guys are involved in purchasing buildings, make sure and the seller says they have a warranty, that you transfer that warranty. I've seen a lot of heartaches come in where building owners forgot to transfer their warranties, and then 2 years down the road they have a legitimate claim and it's denied because it wasn't transferred, or they have to do a bunch of work to get the warranty up to effect and they weren't doing the maintenance. So no dollar limit warranties, if installed right and from a good manufacturer, they will stand behind it. Manufacturer material warranties, that's basically saying that the material is not going to fail. It's popular on lower end commercial residential work. We don't really get involved in too much of that, maybe on a coating job where we're just coating a wall. But it's good to know that the manufacturer is backing up the material, but I would say to stay away from that. Manufacturer and labor warranties, these can be bought where they have X amount of dollars per year spent. There's different schemes, but I would say read the fine print if you're buying that. If you want to buy a good warranty, you need to buy what in the industry is called an NDL warranty. Contractor warranties is only as good as contractors are still in business. I've seen a lot of customers, we've come in and the contractors aren't calling them back, or they're out of business. It was a residential guy in a commercial property. We actually have, I think, 3 jobs under construction today that we took over from other contractors where they hired somebody. Everybody's cautious of money because it's coming out of reserves, but then they're paying for it twice. Where we had to come in and tear off what that contractor did because it wasn't the code. They ended up legal troubles and redo the roof. So my advice in the contractor warranty, make sure they've been in business for a long time. If you're not using us, if you're using somebody else, it's fine. There are plenty of good contractors out there. One thing I like to say about warranties is if you are buying a roof, make sure you're talking to the manufacturer. Those manufacturer reps will talk to you and ask for a pinnacle contractor or a top tier contractor that they have. If you're trying to get a good bid list for your projects, I always tell the customers, go to the manufacturer and ask for their quality ratings from their contractors, and you can pick a contractor through those means and methods. Understanding your insurance. I know everybody's been working on this lately. I have seen a lot of lenience lately in the last couple months since the new year. some customers getting insurance policies pushed through for another year, another 2 years while they do budget for the roof. Whereas this time last year, it was a hard line in the sand. So if you are coming up to an aged roof and you're trying to get your reserves right and your cash flow right in your association or your business, push back on them. I think they have been accepting more than they were a year ago in the industry. But make sure you understand what you got. A lot of damages after this last hurricane on the West Coast, all those policies, were actual life left cash value. So, they had their roof blow off and they got 10 cents on the dollars and they weren't made whole on getting their new roofs and they had to go back to reserves, raise money, things of that nature. Understand your window deductibles. Some of them are 5%. I saw one that was 20%, which if you have a good roofing system installed, I personally would take the 20%, right? The likelihood is very low and your premium savings are there. So go through that with your insurance broker and understand what you have. One thing that it's on the next presentation on May 8th is just make sure you have good documentation of your roof system installed. I actually had one customer where we just installed a roof down in Fort Myers area, and they lost all their documentation because they had flooding and they lost all their computers. Nothing was backed up in the cloud. Insurance policy, roof warranties, things of that nature, and we helped them get the documentation we had so they could deal with their loss. The good news is our roof didn't blow off, but they lost a lot of other things in the building, unfortunately, in that scenario. Drainage is a big one. If you are budgeting for a re-roof and you're looking at it, this is one thing that we do not know. When running an estimate on a job, we will give unit pricing. A lot of the buildings we're seeing today are not up to new code, which that means is that you need additional drainage, either drainage on the roof, overflow scuppers, primary drains, things of that nature. And that requires an on-site visit from the engineer to verify your existing drainage, pipe size, number of drains, square footage. So for every drain, you need an overflow, and a lot of buildings we're seeing don't have those overflows. And those overflows are there for a very good reason, because I've seen a lot of drainage failures out there in the last 5 years, more than I have ever seen, where the building's got good drainage, good overflows, but the main drainage system is tying into an old city pipe that is collapsed or is partially collapsed, and the water's not getting off the roof efficiently. And the way the drain seals are built on roofs, they're set in a mastic sealant. They can handle a little bit of hydraulic head coming back up through the pipe, but they can't handle submersion. They will last for a little while, but if they get a lot of pressure in there, it'll blow out the O-rings in them, and then you'll have leaks at the drains, things of that nature. We actually have in our quality control department, we like to run cameras down the first 50 feet at least of all drainage to ensure that there is no blockage before we start a job, things of that nature, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, because we see a lot of roof systems where there is debris from the years going down the drains. So it's very good to make sure that you have those drains cleared, and your building can withstand the weight. If that drain blocks, that's why the overflows are in there, to get the water off there so you don't have a roof collapse. Surrounding areas, this kind of ties in to the other, the drainage slide. I see a lot of oak trees are a big one. Depends where you are. Pine needles are a really big one. Getting into gutter systems, getting into your drainage systems, those leaks will back up on the drains and then cause standing water on your roof, which then the heat cycles, depending on the roofing system with the water on the roof, will degrade your membrane at an advanced area. But I tell customers, you don't need to hire the roofer to go up there and take the lease off the roof. A maintenance guy can do that. You can do it. I do it myself on my own roof. But leaks in gutters, leaks on the roofs, are very damaging. What will happen, that will build up over time. Seeds will plant. The next thing you know, you have a tree growing out of the roof. And then the tree roots are getting into your roofing system, and then you have a catastrophic issue. A lot of electrical hazards out there as well. FP&L has done, I'd say, a pretty good job with getting funding and putting a lot of stuff underground, but there are still some overhead lines in different industrial areas. And those weatherheads always cause an issue. It is OSHA code, just for everybody's knowledge, that we cannot install a new roof around a live electrical line. So we either need to shut the power off to those electrical lines, or blanket them with the utility. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at a project and think through. If a contractor is up there working next to them, it's not a good thing. Has been a magnitude of accidents that has happened around that. Metal types is always a good one. Understanding what you're buying on a metal type, there's galvanized, aluminum, stainless, and copper. We see a lot of metals being installed in vicinity of coastal areas, being rivers, saltwater rivers, brackish rivers, not just because you're on the beach, the inlet, intercoastal waterway, using galvanized metal. That is not a good thing. It won't last as long. And within 10 years, you're going to have rust, cancer, I call it, start to migrate through. The cuts usually starts where did a fitting cut on it, and it will migrate through. Aluminum and stainless is the way to go. It's a higher cost, but over longevity, it's going to last the life of your roof. You don't want to put a 20-year membrane down, then put galvanized metal down if you're by the water. So have some thought through if you are by the water on what you're buying as far as metal goes. Copper is the best, but it's very expensive. We do a lot of copper valleys, copper drip edge. The breakers that we do up there is all copper. It's a great product, but there is a cost to it. So majority of what we do day in and day out is aluminum and stainless steel, soldered joints, things of that nature. Spoke about this a little bit earlier. OSHA's been out in full force. I haven't seen them they're mainly doing inspections on contractors, but they have some limited rights to do inspections on manufacturing plants, obviously, and serviceable equipment. Knowing what you have up on your roof, if you have serviceable equipment within 15 feet of the perimeter, technically it needs to be having fixed guardrails in place. Roof hatches need to be having guardrails installed around them. And then as well as fixed ladders need to have a gate on them. Chains do not work. So we can have a little bit further conversation if you have some concerns on safety. We work with a partner called Key Safety who provides all the material for it, and our service staff is trained up on inspections for fall prevention of things of that nature. One thing I'd like to point out on this picture here is that you see the skylights on the metal building. These are usually translucent skylights. If you have those, take into high consideration the budget to replace them for two reasons. One, they usually always start to leak after 10 to 15 years. And two, they are the highest contributor to fatalities in not just a roofing, but HVAC, anybody working on that roof. Due to they usually blend in over time with the metal panels. Maintenance guy, HVAC contractor, roofer walks up on the building and will go right through them. And that's a liability for everybody because they do not have protection on them. So that's something to take in consideration. Here's our team. Book your free inspection today. If you have any questions, they'll be happy to reach out, get you on board, and get you in the system. Scan for the raffle. Tatiana will get that sent out to whoever wins in the next short while. I think Ralph had two questions. Yeah, pull them up here. So Ralph, your first question, others might have this as well. If you put a silicone or any kind of elastomeric roof coating on a roofing system, will it increase the cost of to remove the old roof? No, historically speaking, if there's a coating up on a modified or TPO roof, it's a very small percentage of extra dumpsters or labor that you need to get that roofing system off. So it does not increase the cost. I have some good customers. I give NSU a plug. They coat their roofs every 10 years and they get 30 years out of their roof. If you keep putting the coating on there and you coat it at the applicable time, you'll get plenty of life, and it does not increase the re-roofing cost. The other question I have in the box is if you have a 2-year-old TPO roof with an NDLGF warranty, in our case, do you must use the same roofing contractor for the roof and maintenance? No, you can use any certified contractor by that manufacturer. In that case, GAF has a lot of certified contractors in the area. Again, always feel free to reach out to the manufacturer's reps. You can find them on the websites, but they will be happy to find you other contractors in your area. But you do not have to use your installing contractor for any type of maintenance or maintenance inspection. You can use any contractor you would like that is certified by that manufacturer. All right, again, 5/8 is the hurricane presentation. So hope to see everybody there, and everybody have a great Thursday and enjoy your holiday weekend.